Welcome back into episode 3 of Stamped Right NBA Draft. I'm Michael Stamps, as always, joined by Killian Wright. We're gonna throw down a first round mock draft today in preparation for the draft that's coming up here soon. But before we do that, we have a little bit of news that we got. What would have been, was it Sunday? Yeah, it was Sunday. With Desmond Bane getting traded to the Orlando Magic. So I guess do you have any thoughts off the bat, Killian? I mean, it's a pretty interesting move for both sides. Orlando trying to lock in on their win now opportunity with Paolo Banchero, Franz Wagner, and I don't really know what Memphis is doing. But any initial thoughts there, Killian?
I don't know. My original thoughts were like super negatively for Orlando. Like, whoa,
Yeah,
what's going on? Like as a core of Bane, uh, Paolo, and friends, like enough to get it done. Like Paolo's kind of an unproven number one so far, and obviously Suggs is being thrown around in trade talks, which I personally don't agree with, but it seems like it's a possibility. So they've kind of locked themselves into this core now with not much flexibility to make other moves besides maybe some around the margin stuff. Obviously, like you could still trade guys like John Isaac and Wendell Carter, but they just kind of have money attached to their names. I don't really think they have value around. But the more I thought about it, I was like, okay, Bane is pretty much the perfect fit next to those guys. He's one of the best catch and shoot players in the league. I think he shot like 45% on catch and shoot last year. And he's also shown that he can excel as like the secondary creator or even primary sometimes. Like when Ja was out, Bane was basically running the offense for however many games Ja's missed in the last 2 seasons, like roughly 100 or so. Um, so I think Bane is kind of a perfect fit there. It just locks them in money wise and saying, all right, this is your team for the next 2-3 years. But I also think there's probably not a better time to do that because, like, if you look at the East, Boston just completely it is like on the brink of explosion, is what it seems like. And then even if they don't, they won't be too great with Tatum out. Indiana's pretty good, but obviously are kind of on like the greatest heater in basketball history and may not keep that up next year. They may, but they may not. The East seems so wide open that everyone is thinking like, okay, let's go make like a 1 to 2 year run, max out everything and go. Knicks, Raptors, so the Cavs will keep their core together. But I think the Magic made the right move. I think it's time to buy in, and I think at the very, very least, Desmond Bane should help them win a playoff series. And at this point, it'd be a failure if they don't. I think before the last 2 times Orlando's made the playoffs, been like, all right, like happy to be here. No pressure to win. It'd be nice if you do. But now it's like, okay, the pressure's on. You guys have been here for a few years. Desmond Bane has won playoff series, so hopefully he gets them over the hump in a weaker East, I guess.
yeah. I mean, I don't disagree. Like you said, East is definitely pretty wide open. So it's just another team that's going to be above average. And I have a feeling the East will be like what happened this year for a long time, where it's just it could be anyone's game, and it's not going to be a shock to see like any of the top 6 teams come out and make the finals. So definitely an interesting move. It's an interesting team they're going to have next year for Memphis. For Memphis aside, sounds like I think a lot of people were thinking, oh, they might just blow things up. I don't think that's the case. It sounds like they're keeping Ja
Yeah,
and Jaren Jackson. They have an abundance of first round picks now. I think it was 4, right? Four,
or in a swap. Yeah.
four in a swap. Um,
Well, and people were talking about how those picks aren't very valuable, but I believe one is the 26 Suns pick, right?
um,
Which there might be protections on it, but I'm pretty sure it's the 2026 Suns first.
I think
Um,
you're right. So
and
that could,
that's pretty
yeah,
valuable.
yeah,
Because now obviously like he's not on the list, but like KD doesn't fully have a say of where he wants to go. Like not
mm-hmm.
100%. If they want, Phoenix could really deal him wherever.
Yep,
Um, I will say Phoenix or Memphis. I think Memphis is now the only other team with the Suns pick to give them. So the Suns trading with Memphis could be a thing where Memphis is like, hey, we have this thing that you want, and if Houston's being unreasonable and asking for too much, then we'll give you this pick
yeah,
instead. It also
yeah,
could maybe instead of KD, maybe it turns into a 3-team trade and Jalen Green gets rerouted to Memphis or something, which I
Yeah,
don't really think they should do, but it's a
no,
possibility to get talent, I guess.
yeah,
Yeah,
for
but
sure. And
yeah,
then, I mean, not that this is super important, but Memphis also gets KCP and Cole Anthony.
yeah.
That doesn't move the needle much for me. I mean, KCP is fine. He's
You're gonna start
one of
KCP.
one of the league's better role players. Cole Anthony. We've actually talked quite a bit about Cole Anthony through the first 2 episodes
I
for
think he's been mentioned
no
more than
reason.
any other player that's not in the upcoming.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So I mean I don't hate Cole Anthony, but I think it might be harder for him to find a role in Memphis than
yeah,
Orlando. But
yeah,
um, yeah, I mean, other than news outside of that, obviously, I guess I didn't even think about KD, but I have a feeling either by the time this is posted or by the time we record our next episode, Kevin Durant might have a new home. So that'll be fascinating to keep an eye on. A whole bunch of teams that have been mentioned: Minnesota, Houston, Toronto. Maybe. I mean,
Who do you
no longer San
throw out a
Antonio.
final guess? Wait,
I don't.
you think no longer San Antonio?
I think I read that somewhere. I guess I
He
don't
said he
know.
wants to go there. He said that's one of the 3 places.
Yeah, yes, but I think they want Castle, and they're not going to get him. They also want Sohan, and they're also not going to get him. It's going to be Devin Vassell and Keldon Johnson
I
and a
just
couple.
I think the Spurs, if that's true, I think the Spurs having Jeremy Sohan as untouchable is
Yeah,
ridiculous.
yeah,
Absolutely. Like you're telling me you won't give up Sohan and Devin Vassell for KD? Those are fine players, but not
yeah,
guys that have proven to be anything and probably don't have much more room left to
yeah,
grow. Like,
yeah,
I don't know. I think you can make a real push with Fox, Wemby, and KD as like a top 3 team in the West, and you're not willing to do
yeah,
that because of Vassell and Sohan.
yeah.
I don't
Don't
know.
disagree. I don't. I mean, I think that would probably make the most sense because San Antonio also has multiple first round picks, so that's a good asset or two. But I don't think it's going to happen. I don't know where he's going to go. I think Houston definitely has
Yeah.
enough. I'm just thinking of it more from the standpoint of like who has enough to give, and Houston definitely could. I don't know what Minnesota would offer. Probably,
It'd be Randall.
you think so?
One of Randall or Gobert has to be in it if they're not doing what
Yeah,
they want.
yeah. That doesn't seem very enticing. You don't would they move McDaniels, do you think?
I think they said no, which is good.
Okay, so, which is good, yeah. So I don't really know what Minnesota has to offer.
50
I
Rob
keep saying
Dillingham.
I keep seeing this Twitter train where they think they're getting Jordan Poole. Minnesota does. Have you
Oh,
seen that?
I've noticed that.
Yeah,
And
I don't know what the deal is with that, but
well, okay, I understand. I think Jordan Poole is actually a pretty good fit in Minnesota.
yeah,
Jordan Poole has been like his first year in Washington was rough.
yeah,
Jordan Poole was good
he's
last year,
fine.
and
Yeah,
he's like 20. He can't be older than 26, and he's a perfect floor spacer. He can play both on and off ball. Like I don't think there's anyone in Washington that is like being stunted or like prevented from growing
no,
because of Jordan
no.
Poole. I think he's a
How?
perfect guy. They seem to like him over there. I don't
Yeah,
really think they need to move him. Now, if someone comes along and offers like an expiring deal and 2 first round picks, then yeah, you probably take that. But I don't
yeah,
think you're actively looking to move Jordan Poole, especially if you're not getting anything concrete back.
yeah.
I think I kind of just think Bleacher Report ruined him. Like,
Uh, yeah, and honestly, Washington's like really a fun team.
they
So
should
many good young, so
play in.
many. Yeah, and I think this year's draft could help them as well. Last piece of news that's not super important, but it's the only thing truly draft related. Couple withdrawals as well. Ben Henshaw, Neocalis Avdalis, and Momo Faye, 3 international guys, are all heading back. I think Henshaw might explore the NCAA, so
Yeah.
that'd be interesting. But Faye and Abdallas, I would imagine, are just staying put where they were. So
Is this there's been a lot of guys withdraw this year. Obviously, like NIL is a big,
yeah,
but like I think this might be the new norm. I think.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And it'll be really interesting to see with these international guys if they do end up going to the NCAA. Like I said, I know Henshaw. I've seen. Looks like he might take that route, and it'll be interesting to see if others follow. And
Oh,
it's just gonna.
I think a couple days ago, I might be wrong. I'm pretty sure Michael Ruzic withdrew, which is like right after we talked about him very much
Yeah.
not being
Did he?
ready.
Did he?
So
Did he actually?
I think so, because I saw on Twitter someone was
Yeah,
talking about
he did. He did withdraw. So
he averaged like 3 points a game in the B League, man.
yeah, I
It
mean,
was rough.
maybe
No,
we'll have to talk about this on another episode. But some of these international guys um, that are heading to the NCAA are just like really bad at basketball. Like there was this kid who committed to Arkansas,
oh, yes.
who yeah,
Yeah.
who played in the Bosnian league and at averaged like less than a point a game, like something just really really bad. So um, yeah, really interesting stuff there. Let's get into the main part of what we're here to do today, which is a nice, simple, easy, clear cut first round mock draft. Killian's gonna select the odd picks. I'm gonna take the evens. We're going with what we would do, not what we think these teams will do. So I guess Killian, you have a pretty uh, easy way to go here. Honestly, I feel like outside of the you know first two, maybe first three, there gets to be a lot of parity in who thinks what should happen. So I'll let you kick things off here, and we'll get this started.
All right. Yeah, Dallas shouldn't have any problems. I think uh probably the only time I'd enjoy saying this, but me and Nico Harrison have the same mindset here. Uh we'll take Cooper Flag. I don't think there's any questions, and I don't think there needs to be really anything about it. We'll take Flag.
Yep, yep, yeah. Not much to say there or anything like that. That's going to happen. I should mention we're not gonna do any trades in this. I just didn't have that brain power in me. So we could definitely discuss some trade up situations like number two potentially, because I know I've seen um, maybe some teams interested, and one of them was Philadelphia. Am I making that up?
Um I remember seeing it. I don't remember reading it and seeing if the report was legit, but I remember seeing
Okay.
it.
I
So,
remember I didn't read the report either, so I just remember seeing it somewhere. So I guess that could happen, but for the sake of simplicity, I'm gonna go with Dylan Harper, and I think it's pretty clear that would create um, an interesting situation in that guard room with him, Castle, and Fox. I mean, obviously Fox isn't going to be impacted, but um, Steph Castle had a pretty good season, and obviously um, had the accolades to show for it. So they will take Dylan Harper. I'd be surprised if they didn't, but it's going to be interesting to see how that progresses. And then maybe I mean, the KD trade will happen likely before that, but I don't know if that would impact anything in that situation. But to keep it simple, I think if they keep the pick, it's going to be Dylan Harper. I think the odds of them keeping the pick are pretty high. So we'll keep it simple and stick with Dylan Harper.
yeah. I think the most interesting part about that obviously is the guard logjam that you mentioned, but I think San Antonio would be much more willing to move off of Fox or Castle if they had already been around for at least a
Mm-hmm.
year or two. But I mean, okay, I say that Castle's been around for a year. I guess I mean more like 2 to 3 years where they've really had a time to like gauge how it is, or even just one full season with Wemby, which neither of them got.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think they'd be more willing to move off it, but the fact that they weren't able to see Wemby play with either of them yet, I think they're gonna I think they're gonna try this 3 guard thing the entire season. Um, I don't think it's gonna work very well. Castle is going to be in his second year and is very raw, and I'm not sure can really contribute to winning yet.
Mm-hmm.
Harper's going to be a rookie and likely in the same boat. I think they're both really talented, but like asking a rookie guard to contribute to winning as like a primary ball handler just doesn't happen. And also Fox, Harper, and Castle are both on-ball players. I guess Fox is probably the best off-ball of the bunch, but he's also the best on-ball of the bunch. So it's not really
Yeah.
like you force him to run around screens all day. I don't. I
Absolutely.
don't know
Yeah.
what's happening.
Absolutely. And I think Castle probably presents as the most of like a six man guy, but I mean it's very likely he could take a year two jump. So I don't know. It's gonna be interesting to see how that all works out.
I
And if
wonder if they'll share minutes, all three of them,
yeah, I
like for
I mean,
stints, not like all three start, like
yeah, no,
stints.
that'll be
I mean, I think they're kind of too talented to where you don't have at least a couple minutes of overlap.
yeah, no, I don't disagree. That's gonna be interesting to follow for sure. I'll pass it off to you now for the third pick.
with Philly, it's tough because I think like I think you still have to go win now. I don't think you can take a project like Ace. Um, I think you got to go for a guy who can contribute right now because, like we mentioned earlier, the East is wide open and like roster for roster, taking away the injury history, which is hard to do, but like not factoring it in, like Philly might have the best roster in the East next year. Uh, Maxey, McCain, Embiid. Uh, Even though Paul George is not what he was, like he's a positive player still. Like he's a positive player. If Grimes comes back, there's that. There's Oubre and Yabusele. Justin Edwards was good. Like they've got a squad over there. Um, I think it would help having another guy who can play both when Embiid is on the court and when he's off the court, and can also play alongside Maxey and McCain. I think it's tough because I don't really think there's a perfect guy who fits that mold. I personally think Philly's the perfect trade down team. Trade down with whether it's Brooklyn at 8 or Toronto at 9 and try and get like a piece back like a Cam Johnson or a Quickly or something like that, and then take another role player like a Murray Boyles. I think I'm going to go Con Knipple here. I think he can play both on and off the ball better than the rest of kind of the bunch. And I think he's a little bit better of a defender than Trey Johnson. I think he's the right fit here because I think he'll be able to give you a solid 12, 13 a night right away. And then let's say the Embiid stuff blows up and Paul George gets even worse next year and they're just kind of looking like they need to hit the reset button. You can keep Con around for that and have him roll with McCain and Maxey. Not the greatest defensive trio in the world, but not really many great defenders worth taking at 3 here unless you're super, super high on Murray Boyles, which I personally am not, but some people are. So I think Con's the choice here.
Yeah, interesting. I was going to take Con at 4 with Charlotte, so I guess that makes my decision pretty easy. I'm just going to take Edgecombe. I think there's definitely an argument to be made with Trey Johnson, but it's kind of the same thing with like defensively. Him and LaMelo, I just think is pretty bad, and I think they both need the ball a lot. Edgecombe can function as a defender and doesn't need the ball in his hands, and obviously tons of athleticism in that starting lineup, assuming he comes in, starts right away. It's one of those things like you look at some of these teams, like you look at Washington and you look at Charlotte, it's like, wow, if they draft well, these guys work out. Like there are pieces on that team that could really, help contribute. This is kind of just a side thing, but like obviously Mark Williams is very good, but good role player in Josh Green. Trey Mann can do his thing. They have Grant Williams. Like that's such a fascinating team. I don't know. I don't fully think I believe in Brandon Miller yet, but just because he's another guy that needs to have the ball in his hands and he's just kind of streaky. But Edgecombe doesn't command the ball, doesn't demand the ball, but obviously can score at a high level and has all the potential in the world. So I'm gonna take VJ. Would have taken Con here. I'll throw that out there. If he's available, I think Charlotte should take him because he can just do everything, and he's gonna provide some physicality. I think at the the 2 or the 3 wherever they would slot him in. LaMelo is just like so wiry, and lanky, and if they take Trey Johnson, it's the same thing. And Brandon Miller is also a pretty wiry wing. So Edgecombe is obviously a little stronger as well, but Con I think has a perfect combination of physicality. Obviously, everything we've raved about him with so far, the shooting, the playmaking. So I would take Con here if I'm Charlotte. I think he's the best option. If you look anywhere online, it's all Trey Johnson or Ace Bailey. I think there's no reason to have Brandon Miller and Ace Bailey on the same team at all. That just sounds like a nightmare.
Very ridiculous.
Like that terrifies me. Don't do that, Charlotte. So Con's available, take him. But in this instance, absolutely VJ Edgecombe would be the best bet.
Yeah. I think aside from Flag, Con might be the most seamless fit for all lottery teams. Con would be the best fit there.
Yeah.
And so I think that's why he's going to go higher than maybe people think, is because
Yeah.
he really does fit with every team here. Even like pure fit wise, Khan fits better with the Spurs than Harper does.
Yeah.
Harper is the better prospect, but Khan fits better with what they have right now. Like if the Spurs weren't picking at 2, I guarantee Khan would be their pick. So I think that's interesting. And then for Charlotte, obviously VJ. Um, I think the most important part of them getting VJ is the maturity aspect. I mean, VJ was one of the best players on an Olympic team with 5 NBA players. Um, I like Charlotte has just been dysfunctional for a long time.
Still are.
I'm not sure who you want to blame that on. Obviously, asking a rookie to come in and fix that all isn't like reasonable, but he'll definitely contribute to it. But I also think he'll be a fun watch. I had VJ as one of Charlotte's perfect fits, because I mean you can just picture it. You can picture LaMelo and VJ running in transition, VJ catching lobs. They have an opportunity to be like a really fast paced team if they take VJ, and that would be fun to watch. So I like
Yeah.
that fit
I
there
agree.
too. For
Absolutely.
Utah, I think Utah is one of the places that, because we've talked about before how shooting for a star isn't the move for most teams, and it's not reasonable to do because realistically you just like can't really bank on guys being stars too much. You have a couple guys you can count on for that, but after that, not very reasonable to expect. In Utah's case, I think it's fair to take a swing on a guy who you think could be a star, because they might not get another chance to do this. They've been tanking for 3 years and have yet to get a top 3 pick. This is their highest pick. They kind of busted on their last pick, Cody Williams. And you really don't have any like foundational pieces here where you're like, we know 100% for a fact this guy is going to be a part of the core moving forward. So I think this is a good spot for Trey Johnson. Trey can come in and take 20 shots a night if you want him to. He's great on and off ball. So I think he works to maybe alleviate some of the pressure from Keontae George even. And George can maybe grow instead of being the 20 shot taker per night guy into being a little more efficient. I think Trey provides some spacing. He's already shown that he can be the leader of a lesser team in a competitive environment. I mean, he was like dragging Texas through some of those SEC games. Has a case to be the best shooter in the draft. He's right up there with Khan. Uh, really, I think I think Trey's the pick here for Utah.
Yeah, I am going back and forth right now for Washington because there's a really fun opportunity to take Kamad Malawach and just create an insane like defensive front. I think Noah would also be interesting here.
Yeah,
Um, for the similar reason, but just keep Sar at center and throw Noah at the 4. And then I mean, I think a lot of people talked about this as this like it's a big and lanky and really long athletic team. And the starting lineup with like how tall is Bub? Like he's 6'5", right?
yeah,
6'4", 6'5", something like that. Obviously Keshawn George is bigger. Poole is a little bit bigger. Sar, Koulibaly. That would be so exciting. Um, and I don't know which one I want to do. I think I'm just gonna we're gonna roll with Noah. I think Noah has the offensive upside. Um, yeah, kind of an interesting spot. Um, Malawach, you can make the argument for him as well, but uh, plenty of young players on that team. I don't know if I'm a believer in Keshawn George yet. I know that he's only a rookie, but he's just kind of a weird like I don't know if you would call him a tweener, but like he just does like I don't know. Just kind of a confusing player to me. I think Asengwe. I still don't know how to say his name, man. We have to watch a YouTube tutorial or something.
I'm gonna
Uh,
get gay until I
yeah. Okay. All right.
name.
I'll roll with you. But yeah, we're gonna roll with Noah. Obviously, the defense is there. That would be a scary defensive team all around. Him and Sar would be a good pairing up there, and he can contribute offensively pretty quick. That'd be 3 French players too, so that'd be
Yeah,
a lot of fun.
which is, I was having a conversation with my dad about this the other day. Is okay, in the last 2-3 drafts now, there's been a lot of French players get drafted. Not just French players, but they're all tall for their position, lanky, shooting questions, but can put the ball on the floor.
Yeah.
And this is the mold of French guys that come out of the draft in the last 3 years.
Hmm.
Is this because I was going back and looking at like the French FIBA rosters from or the Olympic rosters from like 2016 or
Hmm.
2020. The rosters weren't like this of guys that were that big and putting the ball on the floor. So is this a result of the NBA's global expansion and now more foreign countries having guys come over to the NBA and France is just one of the better countries? Or is this like something specific that France is doing where they have their kids doing certain types of training and we're just now seeing it pan out because it started maybe 5-6 years ago and now
I
these
have,
kids are old enough to get at the draft. This is something that obviously you and I are
yeah,
going to know, but it's just like
no,
one question I was throwing out because I think it's interesting because there's countries who are having more and more of their players now reach the NBA. You're seeing more Serbian guys come over after the Jokic explosion,
yeah,
stuff like that. But I think it's unique because France, excuse me, is having a lot of the same mold of guys come over. You can't really say the same about the other countries. So I don't know. I think it's interesting and worth someone smarter than us diving into who maybe has the time for that.
yeah.
I would like to know.
No, absolutely. I don't know. It's like genuinely like so fascinating how it's all the same type of player. Like they're the same player with the same questions, and for like it's like they're like freak athletes. They're so big and tall. It's so odd. Yeah,
Like, what are they
not
feeding them?
for
I don't.
real. Not smart enough. I am definitely not smart enough to um, answer that question, but
Yeah,
maybe another time.
yeah. Okay, New Orleans. I hate I hate drafting or like predicting any sort of transaction for the Pelicans because I have no idea what they are. Like they have Zion, who when healthy is a top 5 ISO scorer in the league and a top 20 player, but he gets hurt every year. They have Trey Murphy, who looks like he's on the verge of an all-star breakout, but for whatever reason, I'm seeing reports of them looking to trade him. He's he's under 25 and one of the better young players in the league on a good contract, and they're potentially moving him. Very confused by that. They went all in last year by extending CJ and trading for DeJounte. Um, I have no idea what's going on, like at all. So I feel like for New Orleans, it's hard to draft for fit. Um, but then also, if you were to go like BPA, some might consider that Ace Bailey. I don't. Ace definitely has one of the higher star potentials. He also has one of the higher like bust ranges, I guess. I didn't even mention you have Herb Jones, who's still there too. So it's like if you have Herb and Trey Murphy starting on the wing and Zion at the 4, what are you drafting for? Um, I am very confused on what to do with the Pelicans. Truly no idea. I've seen Malawak mocked here a lot. They Yves Misi was an all rookie member, if I'm not mistaken. And I mean, not to say they're the same player, but there's certainly a lot of similarities there. I don't know what I'm looking at with that. Um, but I guess I do think Malawak is a lot better than Misi. So if you're looking to maybe move off that, that's an option. I have no idea. I'm just kind of rambling a lot right here, and I don't want to take Ace Bailey because that's just Brandon Ingram 2.0, but worse. I have no idea what to do. Did not think about
Yeah,
it at all.
yeah. This might be one of the hardest ones in the lottery to figure out. Um,
Yeah, I think
I
is
I feel like I feel like taking Malo like personal opinion. I feel like taking Malawach right here is like a little bit of a cop out on a good rookie center who
yeah,
still has like plenty of room to grow and a decently high ceiling. And because you also like don't you don't want to stunt Misi's growth as much as you don't want to stunt Malawach's growth.
yeah, y-
And like you said, this is definitely a tradable pick. But
yes. The Pelicans should be very much in the market for trading up.
yeah,
Actually, I didn't
I
mention them
I,
earlier. They should be calling Philadelphia and being like,
I was gonna
Trey
say
Murphy or Herb Jones, and you get pick 7 for
yeah,
pick 3, and we'll
yeah.
take on Paul George. Even I don't know.
Who would they take with the third pick? Do you think?
I mean anyone like of the Con VJ Trey group because that's better than whatever. Those guys all have better star potential and higher floors than anyone that you're banking on in the next
Do you
range of
think? Do
Ace.
you think they could trade up for Ace?
For Ace, I
Yeah,
don't think you need to trade up for Ace, but
valid.
I think if Philly wants to take Ace at 3, let them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Because that means that potentially that would mean that based on our board at least, that Connor Noah is sliding to you and you take that,
Yeah.
or Trey. So yeah, I think they're fine. I'll take a swing. I'll go Kasparis here.
Interesting.
Because CJ is 34, coming up on his age 35 season. DeJounte hasn't been an effective player in years and is coming off a torn ACL. I believe he only has a year left on his deal, but maybe I'm wrong. Jordan Hawkins is not a point guard. So you're not really looking at any sort of table setter right now. And Kasparis obviously has a bajillion turnover and efficiency problems that kind of make him scary to deal with. But that's why you don't need to start him right away. And CJ McCollum is at least a veteran who seems like a pretty nice guy who can maybe mentor him for a bit. I know
Seems
a lot
like
of
a
people don't like him, but
seems like a pretty nice guy.
well, he's the Players Association president or vice president or something, so they gotta like him, right?
That's valid, I guess.
Yeah, not that I know him personally, but I think I'll take their word for it that he's a nice guy.
All right. I have 8 with the Brooklyn Nets. By the way, if you're curious, Killian or anyone else, Abdallah's just committed to Virginia Tech. So
Yeah, I
he
think I
is.
heard that. Yeah.
He's going to NCAA. That'll be interesting to monitor for sure. I would have happily taken Kasparis for Brooklyn, I think. I thought about Jeremiah Fears as well, but I feel like this is getting to the point where you can't not take Malawach. You know what I mean? And I think like it's not anything against Nick Claxton either, but I don't feel like he's really improved much. Um, you know, over the last however many years he's been there. I mean, he's been consistent, but he kind of seems like he is what he is at this point. And it would again, it might be weird managing the two. Um, and Malwatch might not probably wouldn't even start out as their first guy because um, Claxton can't really play the 4, can he?
No, unless you have
So
Miles Turner next to him, then no.
so it would definitely create some crowding there. But if Malawach is available at 8, Brooklyn should take him. So I'm gonna
Claxton's
take
a
Malawach.
market too. Like they can
Yeah,
trade Claxton
yeah,
and get
and
stuff for him.
that has been a name that's been thrown around in trade talks. I would say also like I know Cam Johnson is in trade talks as well, kind of a rumor guy, so they could do something about that and maybe take Ace Bailey if he's still there. I mean, one thing we haven't really mentioned that we should probably address is like Ace Bailey will probably be taken sooner than we think he
Yeah,
will. I
yeah.
mean, it seems kind of inevitable.
I just want to have it like on the record that I wouldn't be the GM that takes Ace Bailey this
Yeah,
high.
I mean,
Yeah.
listen, I think, yeah,
Guys
that's fair.
slide though. What like Cam Whitmore, Matas? There's a guy who slides every year who's kind of the same build, like a tweener forward who has like questions on potential and had a down year the year entering the draft. Like this happens every
Mhm.
year.
It
Just
does.
like it could be Ace. So I don't
Yeah,
think it's totally without the reason to say that.
yeah, I don't disagree.
Yeah. Okay. With 9, Malawak is actually my dream fit to Toronto. So I think that's probably Masai's dream fit too. It wouldn't
Yeah,
surprise me if he called up Brooklyn and was like, just let me move up one spot to take him. Like if they were like saying like we're thinking about Malawak, he's like, all right, I'll just give you like Jacoby Walter or something and we'll move up. But with him off the board, I think the right pick here is Jace Richardson. I think Jace can contribute to winning a lot, like right away, both on and off the ball. I've heard that they're looking to move quickly, potentially, which would mean that a Jace Richardson selection here is a perfect kind of replacement in terms of a guy who can run a backup point. I don't think Jamal Shed is a long-term answer for the backup guard rotation. I think he's fine in spot minutes, but not the same way Jace could be. So I think Jace is nice here. You get a 40% shooter, a smart cutter, a good secondary ball handler, and a guy who can pressure the ball on defense. Certainly, he's a smart defender, and that's kind of what the Raptors have liked to do the last 3/4 of the season or so. And they just kind of hound the ball and then let teams make mistakes. I think this is a good spot for Jace Richardson to land.
Interesting. I don't disagree at all. That'll be an interesting one. I think I'm gonna take kind of a unique route. I think Houston will take some sort of 2, 3, 4 man, some sort of wing, and I think an interesting one uh, here. Well, first, I guess it's worth mentioning that like a lot of mocks have Kasparis, Kasparis there,
I've
so that'll
noticed.
be a.
Do you agree with
And
that?
I mean, I guess I don't hate it. Um, I mean, I don't know. You still have Reed Shepherd, which I think people forget a lot about. Um,
Which they've been saying Reed is up for an expanded role. They want to,
yeah,
yeah. So
absolutely. So I mean, I guess it doesn't make. I feel like he would be a good fit, like if Reed wasn't there, but Reed is there. So, but I guess Reed's not really a point. So I don't know. Maybe they can make it work.
yeah,
I wouldn't hate it at all if they did that, and I feel like getting him at 10 would be pretty even, like straightforward value. So definitely, I think Houston's a team that's going to be in the wing market. I'm going to roll with Cedric Coward. We're both pretty high on him. Um, he does everything very well. He kind of has, like we've said, that Jalen Williams esque mold. I think he'll be just fine sitting behind that group of Thompson, Brooks, Eason, Jabari, and he doesn't have to contribute like at the highest level right away. So I think Houston's obviously a good enough team for him to get some minutes, but also kind of come into his own. So I'm gonna take Coward here. I don't know if they will do that at all. There's gonna be probably a younger name. Like I'm sure Carter Bryant will be one if Ace Bailey really is still around. Well, that's like Jabari Smith, so they shouldn't. But I'm sure if Ace Bailey is still around, then they would think about that. Maybe Sorber, but uh, I think Coward's a more polished. And if you're looking for just a rotational piece, I mean Houston. I guess we should consider the Kevin Durant stuff too. But even if I think Coward can weasel his way into the rotation, so I'm gonna roll with Coward.
yeah. I like that there. I like everything you touched on. He can play now if they need, or he can wait till some of those other guys move out and then he'll slot in and contribute. I think with Portland, I think the move for Portland is to find a third wing for the long term to play next to Denny and Kamara, because those guys were just nasty last year on the defensive side of the ball, and they were good shooters and good secondary ball handlers. And in Denny's case, even sometimes the primary. I think you're content right now, at least with trying out the Scoot and Shaden backcourt for another year, maybe two, and giving that time to develop. So I think the move right now is to get a third wing that can play 20 to 25 minutes a night, give you some alternative lineups, and maybe be a good shooter too, at least definitely. And I also don't think they really need a guy who can put the ball on the floor necessarily, because I think they have enough people who can do that right now between Scoot, Shaden, and Denny, at least in the starting lineup. So I think this is a safe enough spot to go Carter Bryant. Um, he's young. He obviously has some questions on, hey, how is he as a half court player? He kind of lacks versatility around the rim. What's that going to be? But I think nonetheless, he's a good shooter and can switch on defense, and he's shown capable in playing in transition, which is pretty important for what Portland's got going on down there. And I think surrounding Klingon with another one of those guys works out well.
Yeah, I think that's interesting and worth mentioning that Ace Bailey is still lingering around. I've voiced my feelings on Carter Bryant. I still think he has a long ways to go on the offensive end, but I think the defensive side he would fit really well in Portland. So not really any major complaints there. I have my Chicago Bulls at number 12, and man, this is an interesting spot to be in. They're always in the worst, like in between um, draft positions, like every single time. It's never not the situation, um, and when it's not, it's Patrick Williams.
Right.
So definitely an interesting spot to be in. Um, I like where they're at with the guard situation for right now. Obviously, an overabundance of point guards. I'm sure that'll get sorted this offseason. I guess Kobe could be a trade candidate. I've read that a little bit.
Yeah.
I I don't know what the return on him would be. That would be interesting to kind of evaluate, but I still think there's enough guard depth to stay away from him. I've also read Vucevic as a trade candidate. So if there's a universe where Chicago can get Kaman Malawach, I mean that would be like an absolute dream scenario. Um, it's kind of the same thing with Khan. Like if there's a team who needs a center, like Malawach is going to be a perfect fit for just about everybody who doesn't have a superstar or all-star center, right? So obviously that's the case for Chicago. I'm in between two players right now. I'm in between Derek Queen and Derek Queen and Thomas Sorber. Sorber obviously not a big man, but I think uh, good enough defensively. I like the court spacing, and I think tempo wise, he likes to shoot, and he can pass a little bit as well. But I think for the sake of trying to progress the center situation, I'm going to roll with Derek Queen. I will say, like on the record, I would love the Bulls to land or find some sort of way to land a more traditional center. And Queen is not that at all. But
Sorber's
I
pretty traditional.
Yeah, but I don't think Sorber's big enough right now. Like he's only 6'9". I don't like that.
That's
Um,
fair. Yeah.
yeah, and I feel like again, you're gonna have to do something at free agency to get a more, a better rebounder and shot blocker, rim protector. But Queen has plenty of upside. So I'm gonna roll with Queen at 12. I don't know if it's a perfect fit, but for the sake of getting a jump on the center spot, I also think Vooch could get traded. And a room of centers with Zach Collins, Jalen Smith, and Derek Queen is just lethal. So gonna roll with that.
Just wait till they bring back Cristiano Felicio. It'll be saved.
Dude, does he still play basketball?
Hopefully not.
Yeah, probably not.
Yeah, I thought you were gonna swing on Ace there.
No,
Yeah,
no. I mean, what's the point? It's a lot of the argument. Like, what's the point of having Ace if you have Buzelis? Like,
that's not really
I
the
feel
same, though, right?
not the same, but like, where's Ace gonna play? I don't know. I just don't.
I mean, who starts at? I mean, he could start at the 3, Giddy, Kobe,
I guess
Ace,
he could.
Matas, and then 5.
I don't think I like that.
Fair. I don't like
Yeah.
many lineups.
I don't,
But
I don't, I
yeah,
don't, I don't really like that. Because
yeah,
I mean, I even if Lonzo gets traded, like I like Lonzo. I'm a believer in Io as well.
yeah.
So, and I think for the sake of like a well-rounded starting lineup, I'd rather have them. And like, I don't know, there's still a good enough talent at the 12th pick to get um like a legitimate starter or role player that's going to help the team. And I don't feel like doing a swing and a miss with Bailey. So
That's fair.
they could definitely make the argument. And I guess I don't think I'd be too upset if that happened. I don't think I would love it though, but I would understand the argument for doing so because, I mean, we could say we don't like Ace all we want, but there is upside and plenty of potential. Like his ceiling is very impressive and is very high, but I think we agree he's just not going to reach that. But
Yeah,
I would see the argument for taking him there for sure.
yeah. You've kind of snagged my last two guys that I've been mocking to Atlanta for a lot. Between I like Coward and Queen in Atlanta. So I'm not totally sure what to go here. You could look at Swarber, obviously, because Capella's on the way out, and maybe they could feel confident in Mo Gay, I guess, to be the backup center. So maybe not. Mo Gay's pretty young, but he might not be a guy in a playoff setting. Which, if they're looking to make a playoff push in the next year, then Mo Gay might not be the guy. They could go backup center. But I think it makes the most sense for the Hawks to go back to the kind of bigger wing / forward like they've been doing the last few seasons. Similar to the Portland situation where they got Carter Bryant, or I had them take Bryant to complement Denny and Kamara. I think the Hawks should go for one more guy to complement Zach and Jalen Johnson. I kind of like Rasheer Fleming here. I think he can give him 20 minutes a night right away, which I think is important. because right now the backup wings are Terrence Mann and Georges Niang. I don't know how confident I feel about those guys. They're getting older, and Terrence Mann just hasn't really been good in a couple of years. So I'm kind of looking at Rasheer Fleming here, kind of looking at Drake Powell. Like, you got to keep Ace in mind too. But with how much Trey has the ball in his hands, like, there's not really room for Ace to like do anything here.
Neither of us want to take Ace.
Yeah. I
Becoming a problem.
I have there's been a couple spots where it's your picks, and I'm like, oh, I kind of like Ace here actually, which is coming up in a couple picks, but it'll be yours. So, I think I also really like Kalkbrenner here, but for the record, I even think this. I don't think they would take him like at all. So even though I would maybe do it, I'm not going to. I think a good pick for them here is Rasheer Fleming. I think that's pretty good.
Yeah, I think Fleming's definitely a guy we're both incredibly high on. So I like that a lot. I don't. I don't.
For the record, this is not the one I was saying I would take Ace at.
No, I know, and I won't be taking him. I was gonna make my argument for Rasheer Fleming here.
Yes.
I think that would be a dream fit. This will be an interesting spot. If they even have this pick, you'd have to think that if there's a universe where they do end up trading for Kevin Durant, this would probably be the pick involved, right?
Yeah.
Probably. So, keep that in mind. They would obviously have Kevin Durant, not have Devin Vassell. So, I don't know what you do here, honestly. I quite literally have no idea. It's probably going to be like a safe pick would just be one of the wings in this class. Also worth mentioning that Jeremiah Fears is still around.
Take another.
Not taking him though. So,
for what it's worth, Matt has been saying that the Spurs have been wanting another center next to Wemby for a long time, and Bassey isn't really the answer, if that interests you.
I don't know. I guess
it's if you like Sorber, pretty much is what it is, or Kalk. I don't know. I don't know if I would do it even.
I don't know if I would do that either. And actually, I think a safe player might be Neat Clifford here. He's gonna be a pretty quick contributor and a simple contributor. Sorber is interesting though, isn't he?
Yeah.
I'm actually gonna roll with that. I'm gonna roll with that actually. That's really interesting. Like I said, I think pace wise, he's a good passer and he could shoot the ball a little bit, but he could space the court. He is 260 pounds, so I guess that's a little bit bigger than I thought he was. He's only 6'9" with like no shoes, so I think that's a little small. But he can move pretty well, so I don't know. I'll roll with Thomas Sorber here. I'm not in love with that.
I think it's a pretty, like, what you're getting with that.
Yeah.
Like, you're getting 22 minutes a night of 10 or 12 with Wemby, 10 without. I think he can be Wemby's bowling ball and take a lot of the brunt for him, which I think is perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, okay, thank God you didn't take Neat Clifford, because
that's a good fit. Yeah.
That was what I was gonna do, is Neek in OKC.
Yeah.
I mean, Neek he perfectly fits the OKC mold of defend multiple positions, shoot 39% from three, put the ball on the floor, was the leader of his team in college, but is probably going to be just fine in a smaller condensed role. And then arguably OKC's like main weakness, one of their two main weaknesses you can point out is their rebounding. Neat Clifford is the best rebounding guard in the last 3-4 drafts. I don't know.
Something like that,
a long time. So I'm gonna go Neek. That's my dream fit for the Thunder. I think Neek should be at the very minimum. He shouldn't fall past OKC, basically.
Yeah. I think this is like probably what we're agreeing. Well, let's just rip the Band-Aid off and take Ace.
He just feels like a Memphis guy too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
that seems so dysfunctional, so
perfect.
dysfunctional. But just for the sake of it, let's roll with Ace.
Ace, and Jaren Jackson hoops. Wow.
And KCP. So that's
Oh,
tough.
man. Really ties it all
Um,
together.
yeah.
Don't forget about
So
JD Jackson. Mm. Him and Ace are gonna have to fight for those minutes, man. What a battle.
that's really bad.
Yeah.
So before we move on to the next one, we're through 16. Through 16 picks. Really quick, who are your three guys? Like, are there? I guess is there anyone outside of Jeremiah Fears that is surprised that we haven't rolled with yet?
Um, like I guess personally, uh, right now, like most of my big board is off the board, like correlating to the picks.
Hmm.
So we're through 16 picks right now, and the only guys in
Yeah,
my top 16 who haven't been picked is Calc, Powell, and Penda. So I think I'm pretty cool with where it's at least relating
yeah,
to mine. And Calc, I even kind of expect this because like not a lot of teams need centers.
no,
So even though I think Calc is great, you just made a
yeah.
crazy anime face, by the way. That's gonna
Oops.
be screenshotted later. I think Calc is like a top 12-ish player in the draft, but it's hard for teams to like take a center because they just already have a good one. So not really surprising that he's fell. But other than that, I've expected this.
Yeah. I have Fears, Theo, and Clayton in my top 16. Haven't been picked yet, so I don't really have any complaints about that. Either let's keep this one rolling with
Yeah.
number 17.
Minnesota, basically every mock draft I read has them taking a point guard. Mike Conley is a dinosaur and Rob Dillingham is not good. So there's definitely questions there. I kind of think I really would have liked Kasparis here because I think Kasparis is one of those guys where it's like very selective on like few teams need him, but obviously I took him with New Orleans early in the draft. Um, so if Kasparis was there, I would have taken him. I think the Wolves' long-term move is to try and let Ant turn into James Harden, where he like basically is the point guard and just averages like 7 assists a night. I don't think he can do that next season though, so definitely you do need someone who can play the point still. Um, I don't think that guy's Fears. I think Fears needs the ball a little too much, and I think he's not ready to help win right now. I think it would just be another Rob situation where he can't really see the court very much. Uh, Definitely a case for Walter Clayton here. I think Clayton can give you good minutes right away. But I don't know. I don't really think there's a guy here. I think the Wolves might be in a trade situation. You mentioned earlier Jordan Poole. I think that would be pretty sick if they were able to pull off a trade for him. That being said, yeah, this is looking a little rough. I think I'm going to roll with Drake Powell, given that it seems they're pretty likely going to lose Nikhil. I think Drake Powell is a pretty solid replacement for that. Yeah, I'll roll with Drake Powell. His volume shooting is a bit of a question, but the Wolves have kind of proven that they've been able to develop shooters in the last few years between Nikhil breaking out from the 3-point line and Ant shooting 40%. And they even had J Mac up to 38% for a year, I believe. So I think they can make it work, and Drake Powell can help win.
Interesting. I'm going to keep this next one pretty short and sweet. We have the Wizards. Their second pick of this draft, I had them taking Noah. With the first, I could take both Noahs, but I'm not going to do that.
Another French.
Just make it so confusing.
They could have a 5 starting French, right?
Maybe.
Wait,
Oh
no,
yeah,
4.
no, four.
4. Close enough. They'll have a second
Yeah,
round pick.
yeah. I'm gonna take Fears. Obviously he commands the ball a lot, but he would have to earn his role there. So I don't know. Maybe Poole's gone and there's a on ball guard spot that's open. But at 18, that is just fine value in my opinion.
I agree. I think that's a good spot. They could still use a backup guard even.
Yeah,
They don't really have one right now.
yeah,
Brogdon and Smart are not good and on the way out, hopefully. So
yeah. And
um,
then like Kispert's probably out, and then AJ Johnson is like a really
oh,
fun player. AJ Johnson's a fun player, but he
completely
still has
forgot.
a way. Yeah, he has a ways to go. So
Yeah.
um, there's definitely going to be some sort of situation there where where Fears can get some minutes.
Yeah. Brooklyn, basically, I'm just viewing Brooklyn as like a blank slate of a roster with no one to worry about building around aside from Malawak. And I think Colin Murray Boyles could be like super awesome, but also like I think Malawak is like maybe the one guy he can't play off of as far as front court goes. That's some really ugly spacing.
Yeah.
But he also might just be too good to pass up on here because the other options are also not that great of shooters. You could look at McNeely actually for a solid contributor because between now and their next pick, McNeely would probably be gone. I think I'm between those two guys. That's tough. Or, Will Riley could be an option because Will Riley I actually like Will Riley here.
Yeah.
We'll go Will Riley because he was pretty good both on and off the ball with Kasparis this season. He kind of ran point guard sometimes actually, which could be interesting if they keep a guy like D'Lo around to maybe help like alleviate the pressure off of him. And Riley's a great cutter. He could excel in Brooklyn. I like that.
Yeah. I agree. Here, 20 with the Miami Heat. I actually really like the fit for Walter Clayton here. I think in general, Miami's gonna more than likely take a point guard. So you could make the argument for Igor or Nolan Traore. I feel like we haven't really talked much about Nolan Traore, but definitely high ceiling, but still needs to find some offensive consistency. But a good playmaker for sure. But Clayton is obviously ready to go right away. I'm not saying he would start right away. It would probably still be Davion Mitchell, right?
He played good enough to warrant another year starting.
Yeah,
but
so
a nice compliment to him, as in they're like opposite players. So
yeah, absolutely. So I think that's I don't want to say a dream fit, but that's a pretty darn good fit there in my opinion. So I'm gonna go with Clayton.
You're not worried about Drew Smith taking his minutes?
Wow, I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
Battle
over there.
No, I think I'm good though.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Shout out to Drew Smith though. It's a
Yeah.
Mizzou legend.
He's been good when he plays. He just needs to stay healthy.
Yeah.
He had some weird injuries that sucks.
Yeah.
For Utah,
it's heartbreaking.
Utah has to take Colin Murray Boyles here. Utah has approximately 2.5 defenders on their entire roster, and taking Trey Johnson earlier in the draft, pairing him alongside Lauri Markkanen and Keontae George, and then whatever's going on with Walker Kessler, I think Murray Boyles can play with or without him. So I think Murray Boyles is the perfect fit here. He'll be the anchor on the defensive side, and Trey can be the engine on the offensive side. And that could be a pretty fun duo. They could both easily make an all-rookie team. So I like that.
Yeah, I have no idea what I want to do here at 22 for Atlanta at all. This one's kind of caught me off guard. We had him taking Rasheer. You had him taking Rasheer Fleming at 13. This could potentially be a Kalkbrenner spot, I think. Clint Capella looks like he's probably going elsewhere. And they don't have anyone else to play the center position. So I guess it's gonna be Kalkbrenner. I mean, unless you go for a more potential. No, but there's not even anyone else. Like maybe Joan Behringer, but I don't know if I feel like that might be a little high for him.
I think he's a G League guy for a little bit.
Yeah, Danny Wolf, no. Asa Newell,
Georgia,
no.
Yeah.
No. So I'm gonna take Ryan Kalkbrenner here. I mean, we're both really high on him. So let's back that up and take him at 22.
Yeah, I also think one of the Duke guards could have been fun there, Proctor or Sion.
I do like Proctor a lot.
Yeah, but I think Atlanta needs to take a point guard or a center with one of their picks, and they can use the MLE on whichever one they don't.
Yeah.
Indy, I think Indy's. I don't really know if they have a need necessarily, but as long as they bring back Miles Turner, I guess the backup center is definitely a need because Thomas Bryant and Tony Bradley isn't going to cut it for long term. You could look at Amari Williams for sure. I really like Amari Williams. I think he's a candidate for that pick. I also think
Do you think, like, I know we're doing what we would do here, but is there a universe where he goes?
no.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's what I was about to say. And so it's
Yeah.
like I think I think Asa Newell or Liam McNeely is pretty good here. I think Asa Newell is the pick because he moves really well in space. He's good at finding where to be at, which sounds pretty nice for a big who's going to be paired alongside Halliburton. He should get a lot of easy open dunks.
Interesting. I want to know, since you have the Thunder perspective, and obviously I do too, but we can converse a little bit on this one. Do you have a player? I mean, I have a guy in mind for what I would do here. It's Liam McNeely. I would like to know your thoughts on what you would do here too.
I think taking a big would be nice here because you could get a guy who's on a 4-year contract. Because obviously, right now, Holmgren, Williams, and Hartenstein are all slated for 2026 free agency. Hartenstein has a team option, obviously.
Yeah.
They could opt into that. I'm not really sure what's going on. It's a little too far away.
Yeah.
But
what about
realistically, you're not extending all three of those guys. Yeah. So I think taking a center here would be nice because then he would be ready to play in the 26-27 season, and he'd still have 3 more years left on his deal. But there's not too many options at center. Like you're looking at
Behringer or
Raynaud. I don't think Raynaud's very good, but I guess he's an option.
Danny Wolf.
I hate Danny Wolf. I put an article out on that.
Hanson Yang.
Yeah, Hanson Yang is definitely a choice. I don't hate Danny Wolf. I hate his fit in Oklahoma City.
Yeah,
I put
it's a common one too.
He's not very great.
Yeah.
But I think going big makes sense here. But obviously the Thunder every year like taking bigger wings who can dribble too. So whether that's like a Kobe Sanders or Liam McNeely, like you said.
Yeah, Noah Penda.
Yeah, Noah Penda works. But I think they've kind of, for Oklahoma City specifically, they've kind of exhausted the French wing train.
Yeah. I think obviously McNeely's a shooter, and I think that's one of the flaws of that team as well. So a safe pick he doesn't have to do a ton, but come in and hit a few threes a game and let everything else develop. Or you stash him, you put him in the G League for a season or two and let him find some consistency, then he bumps up. I mean, the nice thing about McNeely is he is still 19 years old. Like he's a true freshman, like he's young and does have room to grow. And obviously not an incredible athlete, but he's more than just a shooter to an extent. So adding some shooting there, I agree that they need a big, but I can't justify. I don't think I could justify any of the bigs there. So
yeah, and I think when you're in this window for OKC, windows are never as big as you think they are for winning a championship. So he might not be the long-term fit, but you never know if Joe or Wiggins could go down with an injury and then McNeely could step in and provide quality minutes, hopefully right away. He only shot like 30% from 3 last year, but he's also like, I believe, a career 40% shooter between Montbird and USA stuff. So I'm not too worried about that.
Yeah, and also I think Asa Newell would not be a bad pick there if he's around. He's a little more obviously, I think, a little more polished than Raynaud. And again, having a younger player there where if, by 2026, 2027, he's still 21, 22 years old. Obviously not a traditional big man, but wouldn't be a bad pick there. But for right now, McNeely, we're going to roll with that.
Yeah, and I think McNeely wouldn't fall past Orlando at 25. So at the very least, he'll go top 25. Given that McNeely's off the board, though, I'll go Proctor. They just traded Cole Anthony. Anthony Black's a good backup guard, but he has shooting questions and kind of had a sophomore slump. Not to say it's over for him or anything, but he might not be the potential star they originally thought he could be. He also doesn't have maybe the floor general skills that a guy like Tyrese Proctor could have. So I'm going to have them take Proctor, get him on a 4-year deal. He'll be on a cheap. I think that's the most important part for a team like Orlando right now is now that they're so financially locked up for the next 4 years. With this pick, they need to get a guy who they feel confident in can be a solid depth role player. I think Proctor is that guy and can be around for the long term of this new core with Bane, Suggs, Paulo, Franz.
Yeah, I mean, I think we both seen the comps that Proctor draws for role, and like a lot of people throw throw Derek White's name out there, just for what he can do, and he had a hell of a season this last year for Duke. So I think he could. You mentioned his name earlier for one of my picks. I don't remember which one it was, but I definitely agree that he could go higher than this. But this would be great value for Orlando.
You want
Um,
my Proctor comp?
who?
This is low-key George Hill,
Hmm, that's
the
interesting.
lanky master.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, 26. It's the third pick for the Brooklyn Nets. We have him taking who? Malawach, Will Riley. So talk about wiping the slate clean. That's an interesting way to start. There are two ways I'm thinking about going here, and I know we both have our thoughts on Igor Demine, but just adding another young player, they're going to be bad, right? The team's going to be bad. I don't know if the
Yeah.
players are going to be bad, but they're going to be bad. It could be kind of similar to what Washington did with giving so many minutes to Sar Koulibaly and George. Just kind of give Riley, Malawach, then Igor the opportunity to develop and get quality minutes. So I know we have our thoughts on Igor, but I'm gonna roll with him here.
Yeah, I actually like Yegor here. This is a good place for him to be. Like we said, it's a clean slate. If he isn't good, it doesn't matter. And I actually do think having a guy like potentially, if he sticks around, Cam Thomas there is a nice compliment to Yegor. So, and it's a 26 pick. If you miss it, you're fine. You have 4 first-round picks this year. Perfect chance to take a flyer, especially after taking a surefire guy like Malawak. Given that, though, I kind of think they need to take another shooter, maybe, if you're going to be dealing with this. I think you could look at Markovich from Mega Basket. That's an option. Kobe Brea, I think is an option as well. Just for some floor spacing, under the assumption that Cam Johnson is gone. Cam Jones, but that's another guard to have that would be taking 3 guards in one draft. It's tough. I like McNeely in Brooklyn too, but he's obviously off the board. I kind of think I like Kobe Brea here. I think that's the pick. It's nice volume shooter, space the floor for Yegor and Malawak. If you're taking a flyer on Yegor, you might as well do something to support him. So I think Kobe Brea is a solid pick here.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm a known Kobe Brea guy, so I don't hate that at all. We have Boston at 28. They've been in such a weird spot because they're taking so many of these late first round, like not super high ceiling, but going to be guys who can contribute and be role players. That was the case last year with Baylor Shireman. Shout out to Creighton. That's awesome. I think this is a team who'd be in the market for a big man. I don't know what. I think Horford said he's coming back for another year, so I'd imagine he'll be there. Porzingis is kind of off and on, and Cornette's probably going to have to go. So just adding a big man here, I think is going to be interesting. And I'm going to take Joan Behringer. Definitely can go the G League or just take his time to develop. I'm going to be really honest. I don't know a lot about Joan Behringer. So I'm not going to be some claimed like expert. I have him at 34th on my board, which is seems like pretty reasonable territory for him. So I don't. I think he obviously higher ceiling guy. He's younger, so I'm gonna roll with him. I don't know a ton about him, so I don't honestly have that much to say. So that's on me. But I think that's a fine fit there.
Yeah, I think it's good there because Boston, things have changed since the Tatum injury. They're not really looking to probably add a super duper win now piece. So I think letting Behringer develop under a system that has actually grown some pretty solid centers over the years, excuse me, is good. And he'll have Horford there helping him out. So I think
Yeah.
that's actually a pretty good spot for Behringer. Phoenix, I think at this point for Phoenix, I think there's a couple guys you could go. You could look for a backcourt partner with Devin Booker because that's been such an issue. Like right now, like Cullen Gillespie looked okay to end the year last year, but if that's your potential starting point guard, that may be an issue. Beal and Booker obviously can't really play together. That just doesn't work. So I think Sion James is a candidate. Um, he could work. I think the other route to go is kind of get a defensive like explosive chaos creator, just to get some sort of juice on that side of the ball because they have none right now. Ryan Dunn was like good for like 3 weeks and then wasn't anymore. I think that's like Andre Roberson 2.0, like very situational guy. So he might not really be a part of the future, which is weird to say because he was a first round pick last year. So I think Thero, maybe for like athleticism pop, is a choice here. Noah Penda as well. Really, the Suns are hard to draft for because it depends on what they want to do with Booker. Um, shoot, I really like Sion James here, but he's also like not the highest ceiling guy. And if Booker leaves, it's like, okay, why do we have him? So I think it's worth taking Thero here. I think he's one of the higher potential guys left on the board. I think I like him. Like him
Yeah.
enough. I'm not sure how much he'll play right away. But if Devin Booker gets angry and requests a trade or gets hurt and sits out for February to April, then Thero could play 30 minutes a night and at least be something fun for Phoenix.
Yeah. I would have taken him at 30 with the
Yeah.
Clippers here if you didn't. So not doing that, but I think I'm going to go a backup point guard route and take Nolan Traore. I don't know why Ben Simmons is on that team and James Harden is obviously old. Nolan Traore definitely has the skills to be a functional starting NBA point guard. Just needs experience and consistency. So I think that's a perfect situation. Maybe not perfect, but there's enough around him where he's going to have options to get the ball to and distribute a little bit, but also not need to be expected to contribute right away. So Traore definitely has a high ceiling. I don't dislike him. I think this is probably a pretty reasonable range for him. So I'm going to roll with Nolan Traore here. I don't really know who else I would have. I would have considered. Definitely would have considered Thiero and Sion James and Noah Penda as well. Those guys just happen to be the top guys left on my board. So I think they would kind of fit with most of these teams in the back end of the first round. But yeah, I'm going to go with Traore.
Agreed. There'll be some nice steals in the early second round for
Absolutely.
because I mean after the top 20, really, you're a lot of those teams are drafting for fit.
That's it. Yeah. And I was going to mention this too. Like Boston has the 32nd pick.
Yeah.
Minnesota has 31. So those are two teams that are obviously still in like a quote unquote championship window. So Minnesota takes Drake Powell, then you can go maybe get someone more experienced. Boston takes a more raw player. Maybe you can go get a Chaz Lanier, Sion James, someone like that who's maybe ready to contribute quicker. So I think that's going to be good spots for them. And then, I mean, who was the dude? It was Dadier slid to the Knicks.
Yeah.
Did he slide to the second round, or am I making that up?
I think he was a late first.
Okay, but still, like, it's not the first time these French guys have slid, so Penda will probably, you'd imagine if he slides out of the first round, he'll go pretty fast. again, these are guys we would probably expect to go in the first round, just not the biggest fans of. Before we finish this one off, Killian, give me your 5 um, highest rated players that you still have remaining.
Based off my big board, we still have Noah Penda, who is my 16. So that was a big fall. And because when you draft those forwards for winning teams, it's just they have to be the good fit. And there's just a very few teams, I guess, in the first round. So in order, it would be Penda is still on the board. Amari Williams at 23 is still on the board. Sion at 25, Markovic at 26, and then Cam Jones at 27, who I think Cam Jones, someone could just end up liking Cam Jones more than Walter Clayton and just taking him there instead. I think you nailed Clayton in Miami. I think that will probably happen actually, but yeah, I think Cam Jones could very well go in the first round too. So those are
I've actually just because of Creighton, I actually watched a lot of Cam Jones and seen him live multiple times, which is kind of a nice different perspective. And I agree. I definitely think he's good enough to go in the first round. The 5 guys I have left ranked highest, I have Sion James at 22. So that's not really a huge fall. Penda at 23, so not as big of a fall as you. Chaz Lanier at 27. He's obviously not going to go in the first round, but still a fan of him. Ben Sarath at 31. Another one of those guys, kind of similar to Behringer, where I know that he's good enough to probably contribute on an NBA team, but I should probably know more about Ben Sarath. So still like him, though, and another name that you see commonly in the first round. And then 32, I have Danny Wolf. I don't like him, but I like him more than you do, which is a pretty low bar because you really don't like Danny Wolf.
Yeah,
yeah. And then I actually have Cam Jones right outside of that range. A couple other names that we didn't mention. I guess Maxime Renaud gets some first round love.
Javon Small, I've seen him mocked in the late first a couple times. I need to look into that more because I didn't see it at first. But
I still don't see it personally, but I think Yannick Conan Niederhauser.
I'm sorry. If a team takes Yannick in the first round, their GM needs to be fired. Yannick is like a high schooler, except he's not 18 years old.
Was it? I read somewhere, maybe it was you said it, who said like Willie Cauley-Stein.
I said Jackson Hayes, but I like Willie Cauley-Stein too. I don't even think he has the above the rim stuff Willie does. Even I don't know. Willie was like actually a not bad prospect coming out. He just had some other issues.
Yeah. So gonna leave it at that. That's all we have. Obviously, NBA draft is coming up here soon. Killian's going to be out of town, so we're going to have to get unique with what we do leading up to it. But that's all we have here for episode 3. Thanks.